Hello, Thak here. Welcome back. We are at video 3 here with the Hound helmet. We're finally getting back into it. So today what we're going to be doing is designing the template for the back part of the helmet. So I'll be developing the cardboard template from there, cutting out the steel and going from there. So let's get started. Here we go. So the shape of this helmet is unusual to say the least. I would describe the back as a lobster tail configuration in that it's several moving parts articulated on leather, which is, I don't know, not really, to me, the best strategy for the back of the skull of the helmet. Into the neck, yes, that certainly works, but we're gonna try to go with it here. First thing, I've got this ball here, which is representing the head, the basic part of the skull here, and I formed the visor around that. Now when I place that on it, the back of the skull of the helmet is going to be coming off this curvature roughly. What I have to account for is the pivot point for the visor, and I'm just eyeballing that based on this picture below the ear, about there. So my first plate has to allow for covering that area to get to the plate there. So I'm just gonna now do some soapstoning on this ball to get myself some reference points. And if I lift this away, I should be able to get roughly in the area where that pivot point is. So let's get the Hound out of the way here. Just extrapolate my center line, and now looking at my sheet here, what I'm trying to do with this first plate, this is what I'm doing here. It'd be domed up top here and just trying to get this slight little scallop at the bottom there. So I'm going to just try to roughly sketch it on and soapstone on the ball here, and then from there I'll be able to develop my cardboard pattern. Please bear with me. All right, so I've got it sketched out now. Get a measurement, say 15 inches is what the length of this lamination needs to be. So I'm going to now move to cardboard and start roughing out a piece of cardboard and try to match it to that shape. So I'm measuring 15 inches and then 7.5. I'm going to develop a center line right off the bat. All right, so now I want to determine how wide my piece should be, and I would say I'm gonna need it to be 6 inches. Should be a little more than enough, so all right, so I have my blank of cardboard cut out. Now I'm just going to position it on here and just see where, if I can start figuring out where things are going to change. Just even things out using just eyeballing this, and then I will fold this in half. Okay, when I dish this, things are going to change quite a bit, so I've left myself quite a bit of room here, and I'm going to trim it to shape to get my pivot point where it needs to be. But that should give me a good starting piece. And I think what I'm going to do is cut out and form this piece, and then from there develop the remaining pieces from there, because this piece is the one with the most curvature, the most doming in it, and it will kind of determine where everything else should hang. So I'm going to cut that out of steel right now, and let's get started. All right, all the plates have a rolled edge along their exposed edge. So right now I'm going to, using my power hammer and my veining tool, create a little bead across there that I can then roll that edge. So to assist me in that, I'm just going to use my Sharpie here and carefully measuring in just over 1/4 of an inch. Create a guide there. And now I'm going to jump onto the hammer and put that bead in. So rolling the edge starts on the stake where I take this little groove, this bead that I've created, and now I'm just setting it on the stake and I'm bringing down the outer edge. Okay, so once I've got the edge to this point where I brought it down on a full 90, I basically brought it down to a 90-degree angle there. Now I can put it on the ball and start rolling it back onto itself, and I want to bring it back and around. The center portion, getting this little point here, is tricky, that you got to keep coming in from either side to make sure you don't collapse one way or the other. So I'm just slowly nudging the two edges together. And there we have it roughly rolled, and I'm going to do some fine tuning on that, but I won't touch that until after I'm done what I have to do now, and that is the dishing. So we're going to move over to the stump and begin dishing this piece. All right, so now I'm going to dish this piece, and it's just going to be in the top half. I want this to dome over to decay inside where the visor is there. So I'm just going to start dishing from the inside and seeing how that forms up. I'll be into the stump here. I'm going to put a glove on my non-hammer hand, and I'm going to put some ear cups on because this tends to get a little bit loud. Here we go. All right, most of the shaping is there now. I'm noticing that there is a very slight ridge along the back here. At least it appears to be. So I'm just going to start shaping that in there along my center line. So working from the inside, I'm just going to do that, coming in with a hammer and holding it just slightly off so it's balancing on the wood in this part, and I'm just kind of pushing that ridge down. I don't want to go on a stake because I don't want to, this is going to be very subtle. So see how this works. I'm just hammering up to the line. Now I'm going to flip it around here and do the same thing again. Now if we flip it over, you can see there's a very slight ridge there, and I'm just going to sharpen it up from the outside over the stake now to, without trying to make it too pronounced. I really want to keep it as subtle as possible. So I'm hitting fairly lightly. I'm just trying to very lightly define that ridge. Okay, so I've roughed this piece out and it's looking more or less the shape that I think it should be, but I'm going to do a test fitting now into the visor. And when I do that, I'm noticing it fits pretty well, but it needs more doming along here in order to sit properly. It's sitting out like that. I need it down like that, so it needs to be domed. Much deeper than what I've got this current dish at, which means my favorite process, annealing. I'm gonna go over to the forge, spark that up, and I'm gonna anneal this piece, soften it up so I can get some more depth on there. In playing around with this, it wasn't on camera, but I actually knocked one of the teeth off. We had just tacked them in from the last time. So our Hound here he just lost a tooth, so we'll be putting this under his pillow tonight. And hopefully the Hound Tooth Fairy will leave him a quarter. I'm not even sure what the going rate is at this point in time. Anyway, over to the forge. Let's get this thing annealed. So I'm bringing this up to an orange color. I'm just trying to get an even heat all across the entire plate. So just moving it around in the forge. Don't want to burn the piece. Steel does not burn nearly as easily as brass or copper, but I still have to be careful. And unlike copper or brass, where once I've got the color into it, I quench it to anneal it, with steel, carbon alloys, you are certainly never going to quench it to anneal it. What you need to do is just let it air cool, and it's just going to normalize it. And that will give you the softness that is required. So I'll just let that cool off for 10 minutes and then continue on. All right, so this is cooled off enough that I can work with it again. Now I want to do my second pass of dishing to achieve some more depth here, because this is just too shallow for what I need. So back into the dishing form, and I want to hit really hard in a couple areas and really sink it down along this area here, and then start evening things out. Hopefully it will make sense when you see it. All right, this piece is now pretty much shaped what it needs to be. Probably do a little bit more refining on it, but it's gotten to the level now where I'm able to move on and start templating the next pieces. So we're going to shut the camera off now, and I'm just going to proceed with making the rest of the back laminations. Same process of what you just watched, so nothing new there. And then we'll pick it up as I start piecing together these back pieces. Then we'll move on to the front. Still lots to do here, so thanks for joining us. We're gonna sign out now. So, Thak out.